A centuries-old tale from China speaks of a plant so deadly that it doesn't just end a life, it takes hold of a soul. Today, we step into that legend, one careful step at a time. But before we begin, if you're drawn to stories with mystery, meaning, and the otherworldly, to legends passed down as truth, then this is the channel for you. I share news stories each week, drawn from folklore, forgotten history, and strange events that linger at the edge of belief. So tap the like button and subscribe with all notifications on so you never miss what's next. Let's begin. In Hunan, China, near the river bends of Taohuajiang, villagers warned travelers about a vine with tiny purple blossoms called shuimang. They believed its poison killed and trapped the victim as a ghost until another person died from the same plant to take their place. So the curse only lifted when a new victim replaced the old. One hot afternoon, a scholar named Zhu set out toward that region to visit a close friend. The journey was long, and by the time he drew near the village, his robe was coated with dust, and thirst burned his throat. He spotted a roadside tea shed, a wooden awning, a clay stove, and an old woman fanning coals. The steam smelled earthy and sweet. "Rest, traveler," she said. "Have tea." Zhu hesitated. The warnings about shuimang echoed in his head. Then, the woman called into the back, "Sanyang, bring a fresh cup." A girl stepped out. Sanyang, about 15, bright-eyed, composed. Her presence put Zhu at ease. He drank and enjoyed her company. When he arrived at his friend's house later that day, Zhu felt his body go cold, then feverish. He told his friend about the tea stand, about the woman, and the young girl named Sanyang, and even showed the tea leaves he had tucked away. His friend blurted out, "That's shuimang. No one survives it." Then, lowering his voice, he added something worse. "Sanyang died 3 years ago from that very plant. The girl you met cannot be alive." His friend told him of a rumored cure. If the dead girl's old clothes could be boiled, the steam might draw out the poison. Clinging to this hope, his friend mounted his horse and rode to plead at the family's gate. But they refused, unwilling to risk binding their daughter's soul forever. With no escape, Zhu left a final promise. "If I must die, then Sanyang and I will not be parted, here or beyond." He died before sunrise. Time moved on. Zhu had left behind an infant son barely old enough to walk. After Zhu died, his widow soon remarried and left their child behind. The boy was raised by Zhu's mother, who clutched him in her arms day and night, her tears falling on his small shoulders. The house grew quiet, tools unused, lamps burned low, grief like a film on everything. One night, footsteps crossed the courtyard. The grandmother opened the door. Moonlight lit a familiar face. It was Zhu. No breath, no shadow, but standing there all the same. "Mother," he said softly, "your cries reached me below. I could not ignore them." He explained clearly. After death, he had waited in the shadow world. When Sanyang's soul rose to be reborn, he intercepted her. She had already entered the body of an infant in the Ren household, but he drew her spirit back. "She belongs with us," he said. Yet this left the infant empty. Another spirit was needed to fill its body, and because Sanyang's family carried a karmic debt to the Ren household, the replacement had to come from her line. At that very moment, as Zhu pulled Sanyang from the infant to him, her grandmother passed away, and her spirit entered the infant, taking Sanyang's place. After Zhu explained this, his mother was in shock, struggling to believe. But slowly, she understood what had happened. And then, from the doorway, Sanyang appeared. Calm, luminous, she bowed to the grandmother and to the sleeping child. From that day, Zhu and Sanyang existed in a state between realms. Because they had died from Shuimang, they were not bound fully to the ghost world, nor did they belong to the living. They seemed to have bodies, and within the household, they could move about and even perform simple tasks, but they were tied to their families. If they wandered too far, the pull of the ghost realm would begin to drag them in. They carried water, tidied rooms, and sang softly to soothe the child, keeping life moving within their strange condition. Word reached Sanyang's family, who came expecting a cruel trick, but found their daughter standing before them, unmistakable in voice and manner. There were tears, questions, and long silences. In the end, Sanyang chose a rhythm. She appeared by day to her birth family, and at night she returned to comfort Zhu's mother and son. Everyone agreed. Now, it wasn't normal, but it was workable. Meanwhile, people poisoned by Shuimang began to seek out Zhu. He did not take a replacement to free himself. Instead, he stood watch through the nights, battling the hungry ghosts that pressed in around the beds of the dying. To drive them away, he burned his own spirit essence like a lamp, chanting until his voice trembled and forcing the intruders back. Each time left him weaker, his form flickering, but he chose the pain rather than let another soul be dragged into his fate. When asked why, he said, "I won't trade one life for another. Let me serve my mother and protect our neighbors. Rebirth can wait." His house turned into a quiet place of petition. Farmers sick from accidentally eating the poisonous plant, mothers holding feverish children, travelers leaving offerings at the gate. Sanyang helped Zhu by brewing herbs, keeping the stove hot, and listening to the woes of guests. The two of them were bound by death, but what they did daily was for the living. Years passed, and Zhu's son grew sturdy and thoughtful. In time, he married a girl from the Ren family. But this was not by chance, because Zhu had pulled Sanyang's spirit back, and so her grandmother had died in her place to fill the infant's body, creating a karmic debt between the families. To resolve this, Zhu's son was bound to marry that same girl, the infant who had grown into womanhood, carrying the spirit of Sanyang's grandmother. By marrying her and caring for her, he honored the debt and brought balance between the two households. It felt both strange and perfectly fitting. Then, one morning, Zhu called both families into the courtyard. With Sanyang by his side, he addressed them all. He explained that every night he burned his own spirit to save others from Shuimang. Word of this had reached the heavens. For guarding lives and ending the cycle, he had been appointed Sidu Mulong Jun, Keeper of the Dragons. To be Keeper of the Dragons meant guiding the mighty river dragons that governed rains and floods, ensuring balance between heaven and earth. It was a post of immense trust, reserved only for those whose virtue outweighed their suffering. Sanyang would ascend as well, standing with him as his companion. Now, he wasn't boasting. He was preparing them all for what was about to happen. A sound like wind over scales filled the air. From the sky descended a massive dragon, its body glimmering like a river in sunlight, each breath carrying the scent of storms. The families gasped as the creature coiled above the courtyard, lowering its great head. Sanyang adjusted her sash. Zhu smoothed his robe. Together, they bowed to both their families. Then, stepped forward, they climbed onto the dragon's back. With a surge of power, it carried them upward into the sky. In the end, this tale shows how compassion can outweigh even the most binding curse. Zhu endured pain rather than harm another, and through that sacrifice, he transformed misfortune into honor. Sanyang, drawn back and bound by debt, stood with him until both were lifted beyond the reach of fate. What began in poison ended in grace, and reminds us that even in the shadow of death, devotion and mercy can change the course of heaven. Now, before we go, I want to thank you for being here. Every time you watch, like, or share, you help breathe life into these stories. For just the cost of a cup of coffee each month, you can join the Campfire Circle, where members get early access to videos, behind the scenes updates, and our exclusive Myth and Meaning series, where we dive deeper into the legends I tell and uncover the truths behind them. But your support doesn't just keep the fire burning, it fuels growth. It means I can dig deeper into forgotten tales, polish every story, and bring these stories to life at a higher level. This channel doesn't just belong to me, it belongs to us. And every member who joins the circle isn't just a viewer anymore. You're part of the foundation that keeps these stories alive. So, if you'd like to preserve the legends that deserve to be told and step closer to the fire, click join below. I can't wait to welcome you inside, and I'll see you in the next story.